Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, back to One Fair Review. I'm your host, Grant, and it's a new year, a brand new year, 2021, guys. Let us pray that this is not the same as 2020. But anyways, guys, shit's in chaos. I can't leave my apartment still. The Tokyo streets are very rough, and I hear some stuff's going down at the White House. But that doesn't matter because today I watched not an anime, because quite frankly, there's not a lot of anime going on right now. I mean, there is quite a bit, but none that are particularly that interesting or that good. Unfortunately, since the pandemic, in the beginning, we didn't feel it because most anime, takes years to come out. But now I think we're starting to feel it. Now we're starting to feel the lack of good anime that is coming out. And I'm not talking about movies, because yes, Demon Slayer, Heaven's Feel, great films. But that's not what's airing, alright? That's not airing. That is not what's airing. And we are not streaming it currently. Alright, so that's the point I'm trying to make here. Well, my old grandfather used to say, when there's not enough anime left, no good anime left at least, don't watch old anime, that's probably better and more worth your time. No, watch the live action adaptations of said old anime, and then you'll get a true understanding. Now, don't worry, we are not talking about any American adaptations of anime, because I cannot stomach those. But out of curiosity, a few days ago, I decided why not make this review, because this is an interesting thing to talk about. I decided to watch Space Battleship Yamato, and I'm talking about the 2010 live-action remake or adaptation of the anime from the 1970s. Yes, I just thunk up that day to watch that movie. I just had it in my collection. I was like, why not? Let's check it out. I want to see how much it's held up over the 10 years that it's been out. I mean, it's 2021, so it's been 10 years since it came out. Let's say it is. And this movie was pretty big for the time. I mean, there was a lot of money that went into the budget. The studios that were behind this, TBS, they wanted really to break or have Japan break out into blockbusters. Japan makes a lot of great movies. They have a lot of great anime. Heck, even anime that become blockbusters. I mean, at the time of this movie coming out, I believe the Evangelion movies were coming out. So, I mean, no, they did have blockbusters, but they wanted live action blockbusters. So they funded this movie. Not just TBS, by the way, but a lot of studios and a lot of higher-ups decided to fund this movie of this adaptation. $23 million, by the way, that went into this movie. I'm sure that doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, that's a lot of money. And they wanted this to be the big blockbuster of the summer. They wanted it to be huge. So there was a lot of anticipation for two reasons. On one side, you had the fans who were really craving for a good adaptation. Believe me, they wanted it to be good. And then you had the higher-ups in the studios who really wanted this movie to be a critical and box office success. Now, this was actually in development back in 2005. They wanted to do a live-action remake of this, or adaptation, excuse me. And then it was in 2009 that they finally announced, listen, we are going to adapt Space Battleship Yamato. And then it came out. And then, well, I mean, how did it do? It did pretty good. It was a big success. It got over $50 million, so it was a box office hit. That is what they wanted, after all. And in terms of critical and audience scores, success, reviews, it was decent. The reception was fairly decent. A lot of people were saying it was entertaining, but lacking in many areas, which, don't worry, we will get into. Just a heads up, by the way. For reasons of the past, I will not be having footage of the actual movie in this review because Toho does not like it when I do that, so just a heads up. Now, before we talk about the actual movie itself, it's important to discuss its origins. The anime came out in the 1970s. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it. I mean, at least many people have heard of the Yamato, which I'm not talking about the real-life Yamato, which was a real battleship that was like one of the greatest battleships ever invented. It's also the largest battleship ever built. Real amazing feat by the Imperial Army back in the day. It was an awesome ship, really badass, but it did suffer problems of it being too big, that it was almost ineffective. Might as well have just made a bunch of smaller ships. But yeah, I believe they made like 2 of them, and that they actually contributed in the war, and then they were making a 3rd one, but I don't think it was finished. I don't know. Do not quote me on that, but Yeah, so that was the real life story. They based this anime off of that Yamato, and it pretty much looks the same except the Yamato is in space. And it looks pretty badass. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it by now. I mean, you have to have seen it. It's a really iconic design in terms of anime, and it is a badass looking ship. But unfortunately, the anime itself, it's not particularly popular anymore. I mean, how many people do you know talk about it? Now, of course, I'm saying this ignorant to the fact that there is new Yamato stuff coming out, but I digress. My point is that not many people are going to be talking about Yamato the way they would talk about, I don't know, Sailor Moon, for instance. I mean, just let's be real here, or Gundam. But that being said, it was a popular anime and really beloved. The story is pretty... It's fun. It's a 1970s type story. You know, Earth has been attacked by these weird alien things called the Gal, and they have made Earth just filled with radiation. And then the Yamato class, which was meant to be just a kind of, hey, let's send all the survivors away from Earth, turned out to be one of those ships that had a mission. We have to go on a journey to this planet called Iskander. We need to find out how to save our planet, because there they have a device that is going to save our planet from radiation. It's going to bring all the grass back. It's going to bring back the water. It's going to do all this great stuff. So yeah, really simple story. Pretty much the entire show is pretty simple. I mean, again, it's 1970s, but really entertaining. People love it. But that being said, how does the movie hold up? How is the movie? How's the story? How's the plot? Well, in order for me to answer that, I need to ask you guys a question, all right? It's going to be a loaded question, but let me ask it anyways. Now, guys, have you ever had the experience when you're watching a movie and you're maybe a little bit tired and you fall asleep for a couple, seconds, or at least you think it's seconds, then you wake up and you're in a completely different scene. And it's a pivotal scene, and you're like, oh, shoot, how did we get here? But then you doze off, you go to sleep, and then boom, you wake up, oh, it's an action scene. But then you're like, you fall asleep again, you wake up, another pivotal action scene. So you start to try to put these things together in your head, and you're like, okay, I have definitely missed a lot more because I do not know what's going on. But perhaps you haven't experienced that. Maybe you have experienced this. Perhaps somebody in your household is watching a movie in the living room. Could be your parents, could be your siblings, could be friends, could be your girlfriend, your wife, whatever it may be. They're watching a movie, and you're going in and out of the room, and you're just catching a few scenes here and there, and you just take these scenes and you put it's in your head. You're like, okay, this scene goes here, this goes, okay. So you try to draw a picture of what the movie actually is. But you know what? Maybe you haven't experienced that. Instead, let's say that your friends invited you to a marathon for Harry Potter, and they want to watch their favorite Harry Potter movies. Turns out you get to their house, you're about to watch the marathon, you've never watched Harry Potter, they're going to introduce it to you. But they don't watch all the movies in one night. Oh, no, that would be too long. They just watch their favorite ones. So essentially, you've just watched, Harry Potter 3, 4, 7, and 8, without the context of all the other movies that happened in between and at the beginning. You try to put the pieces together, but it just doesn't quite fit because you don't know what the hell just happened. Now, guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you have said yes to one of those analogies I just posed to you, you've experienced Space Battleship Yamato. The unfortunate reality with this movie is honestly that it's rushed and that it's only one movie, unfortunately. This is a film that really would have benefited from a Lord of the Rings treatment of, over the span of 3 movies, we see this journey unfold. Because as is, everything is rushed. And there's a lot of things missed. A lot of moments, or a lot of pivotal moments that are from the anime, or that they've just made up, I don't know. They're thrown in there, but we don't really have the context of it. It's so rushed. In the beginning, we have a very quick establishing of what the world is. You get in a battleship fight in space, not really knowing what's going on, by the way, because we haven't been told anything. Very briefly, we're explained in a cool kind of narrator kind of way what's happened to Earth over the 5 years, radiated, meteors hit it, yada yada yada. Introduced to our main character Kodai, who, if you're not familiar with the show, granted you won't really know that he is the main character because the movie starts out with Captain Okita, so you think he's the main character, but again, they don't really establish it. Then all of a sudden, they're on the Yamato class, they're on a journey, they're going to Iskander, they rush through the explanation. They're about to go on it, the doctor tells the Captain Okita, you don't have much longer to live. He's like, oh, okay, I gotta do my duty. A scene plays out, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh god, I need to be on my bed for the rest of the film. That's an example of just how rushed this movie is, and it's a shame because If this was 3 movies, I think it really could have worked. Use the first movie as sort of your establishing of like, okay, this is what's going on in the world, and then the beginning of the journey, like all the characters, we get to know them, we're introduced to them. The second movie, higher stakes, it's a little bit darker, we're with the characters some more, they're in the middle of this journey, that is this long, arduous journey to this planet, Iskander, to get this thing. Then the third movie, of course, is nearing the end of their journey, their struggles. This is probably where Captain Okita no longer is able to command the ship. Or maybe it was at the end of the last movie. Who knows? But point is that this is where they reach the end of their journey. This is where everything concludes. All the story arcs are completed. Lord of the Rings style, boom, great film. No, scratch that, great film series. But unfortunately, they did not do that. So instead what we get is just a really rushed version of the script. And I don't envy the writers, the directors, the cast, the crew. I don't envy them because they really did have a difficult task to do to adapt a series into one movie. It's just impossible. You really can't do that. And it never works. Here it works decently in that the movie's entertaining and the actors are all good. And even the special effects. I mean, it's been 10 years and yeah, okay, a lot of special, like towards the end at least, a lot of the effects are kind of bad. But, for the time they were pretty good. And, I would even say even now there are some scenes in particular that look very nice. And normally, when it comes to like bad special effects, I'm always willing to ignore bad special effects because, I mean, it's just a tool to tell a story after all. But the problem is here is that when the story is not strong as the original, then it's a bit harder to really get invested into it. And you start picking apart like, oh, look at all these mistakes I find and whatnot. And it's a shame. Like I said, the movie's well designed. The production's great. The set designs, the costumes, all the actors are doing a great job. The equipment, even the CGI, while not perfect, can do really nice things. And the Yamato itself looks badass as all hell. But unfortunately, you don't really get attached to it You don't really get attached to it in this movie because, quite frankly, we don't spend enough time focusing on the Yamato. I mean, yes, that is the only location in the movie, the Yamato. That's where you spend a great deal of time in, but the journey's so quick that it's very, very just like you blink and it's gone. That's kind of how it feels. Character arcs are also just very important to a movie, and unfortunately here, like I said, they're just really, really rushed through. I mean, in the beginning you have Moriyuki, who is main love interest, just kind of not really taking shit from Kodai, and then an hour into the movie they just make out because, oh, okay, I didn't expect that to come. They never indicated that they had anything, but yeah, I guess they were just in love, stuff like that. Or Okita, 1 minute he's throwing Kodai into the brig, and then the next minute he's like, you would be the great captain, despite you risking the lives of everyone on the ship. Like, when did that happen? Like, how did he become the best candidate to be acting captain? Stuff like that. It just needed to be fleshed out. And then on top of that, at the end, all these characters that we've been literally introduced to, like maybe the beginning of the film, maybe once, and then now at the beginning they're sacrificing their lives. It's like, no, we need to care, but you can't care, again, without the context of the anime. And even with the context of the anime, we haven't spent enough time with these version of the characters to really care if they die or not. Believe me when I say it is disheartening, because I actually did like quite a bit of this movie. I do find it entertaining. It is very entertaining. And like I said, the acting is good, so at no point is it like, oh god, I'm suffering. I mean, Okita himself, Captain Okita, the actor who portrays him, is really, really good and a great choice. And Kodai, he's an entertaining, actor as well. Very interesting character. But like I said, we just don't spend enough time with them. And I think that's really the main issue I have with the film. It's so rushed. And I really wish that they had just taken that 23 million, and just focus like, okay, this is part 1 of a 3-part, live action adaptation series. Like, yes, it's a bit of a risk because, you can leave the movie at a cliffhanger, and if it doesn't do good, like, oh, shoot. Well, that sucks, yes, that does suck, but, I mean, clearly the movie was a success, so I think it would have been a good risk if they had just said, like, yeah, let's make this movie part 1, and then we'll do a part 2 and a part 3. I really do think it would have worked out in the end. I mean, who doesn't want to see this? Who doesn't want to see the Yamato? In terms of special effects, does the movie hold up? I think production-wise, yes, it does. The set design is great. The CGI at times is pretty good. But then there are other times where it just really does not work. Sometimes unnatural movements, things moving too fast, especially in space. Which I know that how ironic that may sound now I thought about it. But yeah, and then very much, especially in the end, there's some effects that really just, time has not been kind to this movie. Now, I have seen worse, that is for sure, but yeah, this is, unfortunately, it does not hold up. But there are plenty of action scenes on the Yamato that actually do look pretty nice, and I do think look really cool. I mean, if you're a fan of the original series and you want to watch this movie, by all means, go ahead. But if you're not a fan, it's definitely a strange movie to just randomly want to watch. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, I just kind of wanted to watch this movie out of nowhere, and then I decided, you know what, I want to talk about it because I have a few things I wanted to say. And heck, I don't talk about that many Japanese films anymore, or blockbusters at least. I mean, I gotta have something. So yeah, Space Battleship Yamato. I always get confused with the name. Is it worth your time? I mean, no, not really. I would definitely say watch the original over this, and anything new that comes out that is anime, go ahead. In terms of live action, I don't think they're gonna do Space Battleship Yamato justice anytime soon. In terms of live action adaptation, I really wish they would. I really wish they would. If they make a 3-part movie series, sign me up. I'd watch that. But as is, I definitely think they did make the wrong choice when they decided to do just one movie. Because honestly, I did like the look of the movie. I do like some action scenes. I do love the actors. I thought they were great. Chemistry was not great, but again, they didn't have a lot to work with because they had to rush through all this plot in order to get to the end. So, I mean, yeah, that is unfortunate, but yeah, that's kind of my review. My review of Space Battleship Yamato. I can't believe this is my first video of 2021. Here's to many more, or maybe just one more. Nah, I'm kidding, many more. If you guys have seen this movie, let me know down in the comments down below. Did you love it, hate it, don't care about it, you even mad at me for even bringing it up? Let me know down in the comments. I love reading your guys' thoughts. As always, did you forget to subscribe? Because you need to right now. Like, comment, and subscribe. Because, hey, that's what I'm reduced to now. I'm your host, Grant, from One Fair Review. As always, have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Hopefully, next time I'll be reviewing anime. But it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. By the way, Demon Slayer. Should have just made a Demon Slayer. They should have just waited. Japan, you had your big blockbuster. Here it is. It's Demon Slayer. It's massive. Anyways, till next time, I'm Grant from One Fair Review.